What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Resident Evil Requiem and what we got today from all of those previews. The final preview, IGN kind of has trademarked that name. I didn't really know this was even happening. I think a lot of people maybe kept their mouths shut. It kind of came out of nowhere, at least to me. But people, whether it was press, whether it was creators and influencers, they were able to play about 3 hours of the game. I don't know. I think I heard from one of them that was like a 2 hour, 1 hour split. I don't know if it was like a perfect hour and a half like Leon and Grace, but they got to play a couple different things. And what we're seeing with even kind of like the main gameplay being shared around, well, it kind of is a main gameplay, right? Like there's one major like 10 to 15 minute kind of arc, that a lot of people are uploading, or maybe it's kind of the B-roll that was provided from Capcom. I don't know if even people are allowed to show like the whole 3 hours, but we got a couple new stalking enemies. The one very, very, he needs to watch his diet a little bit, right? Trying to squeeze through like hallways, and that thing's creepy. That thing's got like almost a baby face type thing going on, but it takes up the entire thing, right? So it's like, as Leon, maybe you can be a little bit more, offensive and fighting style. As Grace, it's like, well, what are you supposed to do? You got to run for your freaking life and use the fact that it's kind of a maze and there's loop type situations that are going on in the environment to get around that thing, because absolutely not, you're not taking that thing out, right? That's not happening. It just looks so good. Let me just say that, as one of the opening things here. It looks like such a, I've said it a couple times. I think it's going to be a Game of the Year contender. I really, really do. It's going to be one of the highest selling games of the year. It's definitely, it's not the first game that's coming out, in 2026. There's games even a couple weeks before, Reanimal, Yakuza, games like that. But this is really the big, big game. And I don't even know what game can match. Maybe Crimson Desert if it's incredible, maybe a month or so later. This is really, in terms of big games, the kickoff. And whether it's the Grace segments, which, by the way, continue to lean first person. It really does seem like they almost want you to play Grace first person, Leon third. I think Game Informer even asked them a question about that, where it was like, is that kind of purposeful? And I think he kind of dodged the question, where he said, like, in the beginning of the game, it's just going to ask you. It's going to ask you what, camera angle do you want it on, and you pick it and you go from there. It's kind of dodging it a little, because the question's kind of, is there kind of a preferred way for each of these characters? I think the honest answer, though, is probably they just want you to play it how you want to, and Grace skews towards survival horror and Leon skews towards action, and we're kind of used to, especially modern day with the remakes, and then also just 7 and 8, we're used to like the more scary horror side of things. We're used to that being first, and then the more action oriented, we're used to it being third person. So we got a lot of that. We got kind of the more like doubling down on zombies will retain kind of like their human, like what they're into, if it's a maid. I think I saw one, it was IGN, where there's one that like is kind of obsessed with like turning on and off lights. So if you do that to them, and I think they said as Grace, if you do that, that's a way of luring them in, because they kind of retain that knowledge. But again, like we've got some of those stalking enemies. So now we got 3. Already you got 3. You got the humongous one. You got your what seemed at the time to be the main one. The main one chasing Grace, which now we see the cutscene where Leon and Grace like kind of meet up, and we actually see Leon take her out. So it's like that thing is gone, in that moment. And then we see what looks to be like a cook or like a butcher of some kind, right? That might not be like to the extent of the other two, but I've seen a lot of outlets calling it. It is a stalking enemy. I think primarily because you're playing as Grace, right? You're not necessarily going to be able to take that thing down. Another thing we got that I found to be pretty interesting was kind of this crossover between like, if you leave some enemies when you're playing as Grace, and if you're Leon and you're in the same area, they will like carry over, so if like Grace somehow goes on a murder spree, right, and she's able to like, wipe out the board, you actually might have it easier as Leon. They actually used, I believe, the opposite example as their example, right? If as Grace, you are sneaking around and you're not really taking any out, which by the way, they've kind of like pushed. Like, that's kind of what you're supposed to do as Grace. If you do that, then when you go through as Leon, you're going to be facing like a heavy, amount of enemies because, Grace didn't take them out for you, basically. So I do like that. I actually think that's one of the cooler elements of, especially if it's the same area. They're closed off from each other, right? Like the bars come down, they have to go their different ways. But there's going to be overlap, in terms of where they are running into. And they're going to run into the same areas at certain points. And there can be overlap of like, even if one kills an enemy, that enemy can still be with the other one because it could be earlier than when you play it as the other character, right? So you still have that kind of cool, like if you want us to face the same enemy twice, we can do that. Almost gaminess to it, right? But then if you want to play around with if they're almost doing it at the same time or like one right after the other, if you take them out as one, you don't have to take them out as the other. So I think that's one of the cooler systems when it involves like playing as both these characters. They shut down the open world talk. They actually shut it down very forcefully, right? That this is not an open world game. They talked again about, I would say doubling down, like setting the record as straight as humanly possible. I mean, they've already done a few times, but like, they actually tried this game. I think they said today they tried this game as both of them, just a Leon game, just a Grace game. And what they found is neither of them really worked. It needed to be both of them combined. And I guess previously we only heard the Leon part, right? We heard that they wanted to do a Leon one, and they tried to make the whole game like that. They couldn't do it, so they kind of amended that a little bit, but that's okay. A couple other things I want to talk about. One thing is they did say that there is post-game content which allows players to continue playing after completing the main story. And both of I saw a couple different people. I liked two of the tweets that I saw personally. Both of them said like that was, they didn't say anything after that. Details have not been disclosed. No further details were shared. So just kind of floating that one out there to then say, no, we're not going to give you any more. That one is interesting. Maybe a little bit of, like when you have even semi-open, it doesn't even have to be an open world game, right? If there's like side things to do or things to collect, like, you kind of sometimes build something in there where you can go back and keep going. But then I guess you have to be careful because if there's post-game content, does that open the door to almost spoil ahead of time that Leon and Grace both survive, right? Like when an open world game lets you keep playing afterwards, 9 out of 10 times, not every time, but 9 out of 10 times, an open world game that will let you keep playing post-game means that the character survives. A way open world games kind of get away with that or around it is that they will have your load or your save, be the last one you did right before that main mission, right? That tends to happen when the world is like radically shifted or a character dies, right? You're still able to go back and clean up, but you have to do it before that final mission. But games that, the world doesn't change too much and your character lives, you can just pick up directly after the main quest ends you. So I don't know if that's supposed to hint at something or it's just a fun little thing that they threw in there, right? And then I'd say probably the biggest thing in terms of Ada Wong specifically. So Deadline did an interview and said, I must ask, in the preview, Leon is talking to someone on a headset, and I need to know, is it Claire or Ada? Where are they? And he laughs, so I know a lot of fans are interested in similar things. We all want to know. I'm also very interested in the private relationship between Leon and Ada. However, I can't comment on either one of these things, but I will say that we have put a lot of work into Requiem, implementing stories and things that fans will love and enjoy. So I hope that fans are looking forward to the game. I think that at least confirms Ada, right? Like, he was asked about either or, and technically both. He was asked about both, but is it Claire or Ada? Doesn't really answer that, but talks about that he's also very interested in specifically the private relationship between Leon and Ada. Nobody really asked him to throw in that private relationship part, right? So I feel like that's a really big hint. It was something I was going to just make a video on my own of just, a quick little prediction that Ada will absolutely be in this game. When it comes to like Jill or Claire and all that stuff, to me, it becomes a whole lot more 50-50 or even like 70-30, like doesn't happen. If there's one of the legacy characters that I can see swooping in at some point, it's absolutely Ada. So that was already kind of on my radar, and then to get this and specifically bringing up Ada, like he's not bringing up Claire's relationship to Leon, right? It's specifically Ada's relationship and that he's also interested in their relationship. Well, again, that nobody really led you there. He kind of did that on his own, right? Which to me, I think that maybe a little slip up. Maybe that was the hint that we're absolutely going to get Ada in this game. And then the final thing I will say, okay, and this has been pointed out from people, it is a little odd when you actually watch it. So I think it's literally the very beginning of the gameplay, you have like the nurse that comes in that's like warning Leon, and she gets destroyed from the chainsaw guy, right? Which connects then to a lot of the gameplay we had already previously seen. We just didn't really see how you get there. And you know, a lot of the sentiment that I've seen online of it, right, is that, you know, Leon, okay, well, number one, I think it does kind of that Japanese thing where you can step in, but you're just going to absolutely refuse to, right? He watches this girl get absolutely, you know, sawed in half almost. He's got all day and night. He could take a coffee break, come back. She would still be there alive. He could do whatever he wants. She'll still be there. And he does not intervene. He lets her get sawed up, right, and dies. And I will say, that in its own, I feel like is like a Japanese thing, okay? I've never really been too much of a fan of that, but, you know, it happens a lot in animes, right? They say, they have an entire 20-minute monologue when they could just, like, step in and do something. They have to kind of watch. And he does have his gun raised, so maybe he doesn't know until it's too late, whatever. But then he does, like, a one-off, like a one-liner, and I've seen that kind of be the main, you know, source of frustration with people. And well, I saw one person, I guess specifically on Twitter, and then if you watch the gameplay of really anybody that's reposting it, the comments are almost solely flooded with that scene. And they're more joking. I don't know if people are taking offense. I will say it's a little off. It's a little off. I think, again, the Japanese kind of thing is the Japanese thing. Like, I kind of expect people to just not, you know, step in when they should, but you know they absolutely will not do that. The one-liner thing is like, okay, I mean, we get it. We get it. Leon's a badass. He's cool. But it's also, like, does he know this person? I mean, we don't really get a lot of context clues. But, I mean, he did just see that, and I know he's cool, calm, and collected. I know he's been through this, like, quite often in his life. I feel like he didn't have to say the one-liner, right? That was, like, a stylistic choice that maybe didn't work so well. I just kind of wanted to throw that in there as well. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.